Welcome back, and for joining us on Good Morning Sri Lanka. We're here with ornithologist Deepal Varakagoda. So, we've been talking about birds and lots of different types of birds, falcons, parrots, owls here in Sri Lanka. Have you noticed any change in nesting patterns since of recent over the time since you've been birding?
Well, I can say yes and no. Because nesting patterns, the breeding goes as the same as earlier, but the number of birds, certain species reduced due to mainly loss of habitat. So that affects on nesting as well. The biggest threat we have is currently the loss of their habitat, because birds need their peculiar certain birds, especially the rainforest birds and wetland birds, they are particular about the habitat. They evolve within that habitat, so they need the habitat to be survived. And when the habitat is lost, so they don't have any more place to find food and nesting. So that affect their breeding circle.
Sri Lanka has always been a home for a lot of migratory birds, and the season, of course, there's a season I believe that starts in September to January where the winter visitors come. But recently, I didn't know about this, we are experiencing our summer visitors arriving in the country. Could you tell us a little bit about
that?
Yes,
in mid-August we started getting migratory birds from northern countries. Like Central Asia and Eastern Europe, and even from subarctic, the tundra area. They arrived in mid-August, and the arrival continues till November. And the migratory birds stay here until April, and they start migrating back to their homelands for breeding. Mm-hmm. But after May, because when the northern hemisphere has winter, the southern hemisphere in summer, like the temperate regions near Antarctic region. When the northern hemisphere has the summer time, southern hemisphere has the winter time. So for the birds, especially the seabirds, which breeds in subantarctic islands, they move towards a tropical area. So that is how we get there are about 10 such we call oceanic birds, so seabirds. They migrate to our ocean in tropical areas, the Indian Ocean, northern Indian Ocean.
it's pretty fabulous. I saw it actually yesterday where I was going next to this lake and all these birds are just flying in. It's fabulous to see them coming in as a group.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Also, so where would you suggest would be, if the viewers would like to go birding, where would you suggest would be the best place for them to?
There are many known places in Sri Lanka. If we take Colombo, there are two good places quite near to Colombo. One is Bellangwilla Marshes, with both are marshlands, also known as wetlands. The other one is in Talangama, in and around Talangama Tank, which is quite popular for bird watching, and quite a number of bird watchers live in Colombo, visit that area for bird watching. Mm-hmm. And if we go outside from Colombo, there are many places like Singaraja Rainforest or Udawalawa National Park, and Bundala and Yala National Parks, and Mineria, Sigiriya, that area, and also in the hills, Kandy, and in and around Nuwara, including the Horton Plains National Park. And also if we go towards north, like Mana and Jaffna, also a very good area for bird watching, especially for water birds, including migrant birds which come to Sri Lanka.
So, as a professional guide to bird watchers and people who like to see birds, could you give a couple of hints for amateur birders? You know, what to do, what not to do, and what to look out for, and how to protect the environment while you're doing it.
Yes. First, as bird watching is just a first step in ornithology, which is a very big field. the first activity we do in bird watching is identifying the birds we see in the field. For that, you need a good guidebook, which I published recently. And with help of such a guidebook, beginners first learn how to identify the different birds they encounter in the field. And with help of the guidebook, they can develop the skills in identifying the birds. And once become a good bird watcher, like experienced bird watcher, then they can help in nature conservation, especially by studying a particular environment. The birds can be used as indicators in change in the environment. So by studying the population trends, or the decreasing or increasing of a certain population of birds, we can judge the status of the environment. So in environmental studies, the birds are very important. So bird watchers can involve in, experienced bird watchers can involve in such environmental studies, and the outcome of the study would help to conserve that important habitat.
I see. Well, thank you, sir, for joining us. That was definitely a very valuable discussion, and particularly with it being a very good time to actually see the birds coming in. This beauty of living in a country like Sri Lanka is that we get to actually see a lot of wildlife, even in our back gardens, and birds are definitely one of those, transitory wildlife that move around. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a very good day today. And right now we're going to take a little break. We will see you guys on the other side with a lot more Good Morning Sri Lanka.
Hello and welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. We've had an interesting discussion with ornithologist Deepal Varakagoda on his book on birds, and we've got a lot more on wildlife lined up for today's show. In fact, we've got a video on guinea baboons and how French researchers have discovered that they actually have a literary component. Baboons could possibly read. So should we roll on?
Yeah, we will roll on. Let's take a look at this interesting study.
It is.
Well,
yeah.
Pretty interesting, actually.
Seriously, very interesting. It's actually, the study was done to explore language skills and the evolution of learning to read. And apparently, where these guinea baboons are concerned, they don't need to possess language skills. They could just pick up on reading. So that's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, actually, like the brain is actually wired to recognize language skills without being taught a language. I guess it's a little bit about the evolution of the brain as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's how we learned to, how, human beings learned to do things, evolution itself. Who knows, maybe we'll be faced with the situation of the planet of the apes.
Possibly, quite possibly at this rate.
Yes. So anyways, I have heard of other stories like this as well, but not so much in studies. Have you heard of like dogs being able to understand? Have you realized that sometimes when you talk to an animal, they seem to understand?
Yeah, there is a level of intelligence there. I mean, it's...
Yeah, pretty incredible. Anyways, moving on, we do have another story. We are going to be talking about overfishing and ecological problems. Now, this is a problem that has faced a lot of people who are in the fishing industry in Sri Lanka. Overfishing can be a big deterrent to the fishing industry, and another community in from Kyrgyz, where people are making a living from fishing, are experiencing a similar problem due to overfishing of the Isaac River. Let's take a look at this story. Now, this is a problem that is facing a lot of people in Sri Lanka as well, and in relation to this issue in the Soviet Union, they have been taking a couple of new developments and initiatives in order to try and protect the fish population as well as the fishing communities. They've started small fishing farms, next to the lake in order to try and protect the fish populations. Let's hope this has, good growth in the future.
Yeah, something Sri Lanka could try out as well.
Yes, of course. Right now we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll see you guys on the other side of this. Hello everyone, welcome back. Now for those of you all who are just joining us, I'm Prami and this is Megara and this is Good Morning Sri Lanka, and we do have a few more stories coming up. Right now we're going to take a look at tourism, aren't we?
Yes, we've been talking about preserving wildlife, and just as important as preserving wildlife is preserving our heritage sites. And in fact in Alabama, one of the castles, the government in Alabama has decided to lease the castle to tourists, but they're having a bit of a problem there because they've had some opposition from conservationists who wish to try to preserve the castle.
Yeah, and now natural heritage sites, that's an idea that a lot of countries have been developing, and I do know that they do that in India as well, where they take a castle and they create it into a hotel, and this is a similar story that we're going to get into. Let's take a look at that. Now that is a pretty interesting story, but you know, there's something about, you know, when you go to a historical or a natural heritage site, something about just being in the place kind of transports you back into the past, right? So I guess, you know, the tourists who do get an opportunity to go to Albania's castles are having a very good, you know, good experience.
Yeah, we've had several of our few in Colombo heritage sites developed as well, and it's all looking quite good.
Yes. And right now we're going to get into a little bit of an entertainment story. We are going to be talking about a 4-man vocal group, and they're called Under the Street Lamp. They are a little bit of a youthful spin-off, but they're very stringent about the fact that they're not a boy band. They're very much a man band. So let's take a look at this. It's so old school. That song was made famous by Shrek. Well, we're just about at the very end of the show, but before we go, I'm going to remind you guys about something you can do. If you have any comments about the show, or if you would like to see certain guests on the show and you would like us to do so, you can of course SMS us your comments on GMSL space your comments, as you can see, and GMSL space your comments to 7788, and of course we will try to do our best to address those comments, as well as
yeah, our Facebook page. If you would like to find out more about the show and be up to date with who we'll be featuring throughout the week, you can check us out on our Facebook page.
Yes, we do like to have friends, so go run a search for us on the worldwide web, now worldwide Facebook, and just search for Good Morning Sri Lanka and press like, because we love to have friends. Anyways, with that, we have to say bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys bright and early on Monday morning. Until then, have a fabulous day and a weekend.